multilingual.
Sorry. Uh, Pass it off, Rob.
Oh, I call on Rhonda.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rhonda Hittenberger Ortiz. I am the MEL instructional specialist in the Southwest region. So I'm based in Springfield and get to work with 94 districts in this region. So I'm glad you all are here. Rhea?
Hi, I'm Rhea. I'm the MEL specialist in the heart of Missouri. I cover 31 counties, and I don't think there's any CSLD schools in my region, but I help out a lot with Rob, and um, so I'll probably be seeing you guys. I'm excited to work with you. Guadalupe.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Guadalupe Magaña Duran, and I'm located at the Kansas City RPDC with the UMKC. So I know there's a couple of school districts that are under my belt, and I'm looking forward to working with you and collaborating with you. So thank you.
And we also have Julie Antill, who is our representative from the Southeast. I know she was out traveling today and wasn't sure if she could be on right away. So if she pops on later, we'll introduce her then. But just know that's who Julie is, and she also will come up and help Rob in the St. Louis area a little bit. So with that, I am going to share my screen again. So to start us off, we would like for you to utilize the note taker to sign in. So we have to have a record of who is in attendance. And to do that, we are going to let you sign in and let us know where you're from, just so we can give you credit for being here. We also have a survey that's underneath where you sign in. If you would please, sometime today or tomorrow, take that survey. So we have a starting point. We're going to use that to measure our progress and how much we have acquired through this book study. So hopefully you get something out of it, but this is going to be our record to help us understand what we've done and what we need to do to improve in the future. So again, I'll put that in the chat, that link in the chat one more time in case you don't have the link to the note taker. Hang on just a second.
Rhea put it there, Cami.
Oh, Rhea put it for me. Thank you, Rhea. Wonderful. Okay. So I will move forward. All right. So our agenda for today, we've already had Cassandra's welcome, and we've introduced our MEL personnel. So next I'm going to take you to the Wakelet, and we're going to kind of look at the platform we're going to use for our book study. And then we're going to look at the calendar and how to sign up for some of our tasks that we're going to have during the book study. And then we'll jump right in and do chapter 1. And I know that some of you don't have your books as of yet, so I've captured a couple of paragraphs from the book that we're going to look at specifically for today. So let's get started. So we have some objectives. We're going to identify 7 steps to building a language-rich interactive classroom by participating in academic discussion and some interactive learning tasks. So our language objective, we're going to orally share ideas for improving instruction by participating in some structured conversations. So one thing that we can do is post our objectives for our students to see. And something that I always like to do in my class was to annotate my objective. So if my students didn't know what identify meant, I could put a little note there that meant that to show that it meant that we're going to look closely at them. And maybe an image to help understand that. And strategies, how to do something, an idea. Supporting, giving help to. And when we're talking about multilingual learners, we're talking about students who are learning to speak more than one language. And then practicing, we're going to do things more than one time so we can get better at them, and with examples like this or like that. So kind of an idea of how we do that. And then again, welcome. All right, so I'm going to start out with this activity that I like to share quite often. And in this picture, you see a Colgate ad for dental floss. So I want you to study it for a moment. And keeping in mind, this is an advertisement for dental floss. And if you would, unmute for me and tell me something that you notice about this picture that you think might be relevant. So feel free, just unmute if you have something to say.
Hello. Well, it looks like the gentleman has something stuck in his teeth, so he will need this floss.
Exactly, yes. So he may have something there that requires some flossing. Looks like some broccoli or something there. Anything else you notice about the two people? Using my teacher wait time.
They have beautiful
Hey.
white straight teeth.
Yes, they
Oh,
both have beautiful
I
white
can't. It's
straight
too
teeth.
it's too chilly.
Mm-hmm. Anything else that you notice about the two people? I will tell you this advertisement comes from Brazil.
Hello, yo.
There we go. Well, I'm going to go forward and ask you if you noticed that the gentleman only has one ear. So take a look. Did anyone notice he only has one ear?
Not until you point it out.
Yeah. So a lot of times, especially when we get English learners in our classroom, we come with this preconceived notion about what we're looking for and what we're going to see. So you were just looking for things that pertain to their teeth and maybe things that pertain to dental floss. And we don't always look at the whole complete picture of who our students are. So I'm challenging you to not just look at your students as English learners, but look at the whole picture of who they are and what they can do. So that's kind of our starting point for today. Now, when we're talking about English learners in Missouri, I wanted to kind of give you a demographic picture of what we look like as a state. Back in 2010, we had just around 20,000 English learners in our state. And last year, we tested 40,977 students. So we have more than doubled the number of English learners in our state in the last 13 years. These students are in 290 of our 554 districts across our state. The majority of them speak Spanish. Some of them are listed as speaking English, and I want to kind of explain that a little bit. When parents enroll, they fill out what's called a language use survey. And what that survey does is identify if another language is spoken in the home by someone or understood by the student. Some parents, when they enroll the student, will say that their student, they only speak English with them, but the English that they speak with them is not proficient English because they themselves are not proficient English speakers. So we do get some students who identify themselves as being speakers of English when they actually have influence from another language as well. After English, we have Somali, Bosnian, Vietnamese, Swahili, Chinese, Russian, and Burmese as our top languages. You'll see that Burmese only says 1%. Some of these have changed in the last year. This was from 2 years ago, so I don't have a current count. That's something I've requested, and we'll have some more up-to-date information on that soon, hopefully. But that gives you an idea of the languages we have in our state. And then there are two kinds of language that our students might use when we're interacting with them. Those are called BICS and CALP. BICS is that basic interpersonal communication where they're talking to their friends, that social language, and they usually pick that up very quickly and right away. And CALP is cognitive academic language proficiency. And that's the language of the classroom, the academic language that we're working on. People often have a misconception that English learners have a language deficit, but they don't. They just have a difference and they're learning a language. They also sometimes think that they have to learn the basic interpersonal language before they learn the academic language, and that isn't always the case as well. All right, so there are different kinds of English learners in our state. Some of them are immigrants or refugees that are born in a different country. Most of the time, these are older students who have already been attending school at least for a little while before they come to our country. The majority of them are older students, though. And then we have students who are born to foreign parents in the U.S. This is the #1 group in our states, in our nation as a whole, are U.S.-born multilingual learners. A lot of them are second and third generation now, and quite often many of them don't speak either language very well. As example, there's Spanglish. They speak a little bit of Spanish and English mixed together. And then we have international adoptees. Those are children that are adopted by English-speaking parents from another country. If they're younger, they usually lose their primary language within 6 months because they don't have anyone speaking in their home language, their first language with them. And so they're totally immersed into an environment that does not use their home language. If they're older and they've been speaking their language for quite a while, they retain their language quite a bit longer, and sometimes forever. And then these last two are just some categories of English learners that are in our schools. We have students with what we call interrupted formal education or limited formal education. These are students who maybe went 2 or 3 years to school and then because of circumstances, be it war or strife or just lack of opportunity, no longer attended school. So we see this a lot in the secondary when we get high school students who come and quit school in 2nd grade. Sometimes they had to go work to help support their families, but they haven't had the opportunities for education that some of our other students have. And then we have what we call LTELs, or long-term English language learners. These are students who have been in the EL program for more than 6 years. And there are various reasons for that as well. All right, so my next question is, what is language? So if I was to give a definition of what language is, we would say that it was a code that's made up of rules that define what words mean, that's semantics, when we use certain words, that's pragmatics, and how we put words together, that's syntax. It's arbitrary. So if I pointed over to a table and I said, that's a table, it's only a table because someone gave it that name at some point in time. I could have called it something else. It could have another name for my group, my culture. So it's arbitrary. It's based on what people agree on. It is socially agreed upon, so everyone has to say, yeah, that looks like what we should call a table, and then they call it a table. And then it's a learned behavior. After everyone agrees, they start teaching it to anyone else that they encounter. They teach it to their children until it becomes part of their culture and part of their language. So that's what language is. And it's more than just words. It's more than just the things we think. It's part of who we are. It's how we socialize. It's how we transmit all our culture to our children and other people that come into our lives. It's how we capitalize and value our first language. And in order to understand a person's culture, you don't have to speak their language. You just have to want to learn more about them. And another thing about our ESL, ELD programs is they are not an intervention. We don't need to fix our English learners. We just have to help them learn English. And not speaking English is not a disability. Some of our English language learners are gifted and very talented. They just don't have English yet. So our job is to support them, not really remediate. Sometimes we do some remediation, but mostly we're just supporting them on their journey to learn English. And one thing to keep in mind is that they don't come with empty slates. They all have all kinds of experiences, beliefs, backgrounds, traditions, cultures, all of these things in their background that they bring along. And our job is trying to find ways to leverage these funds of knowledge. And we have to have high standards to provide a powerful opportunity for them to learn. The standards and the learning opportunities have to be both for teachers and students. So one of the things that we have found is that a lot of our teachers just don't have the opportunities and the experience needed to work with our English learners. So that's part of why we're doing what we're doing here today. And that's how we're going to fill that gap that is evident between our English learners and our mainstream students. One of the very most important things that we can do is getting to know our students, know where they're from, know about their culture, find out as much as possible about them, finding out from our English language development teachers what their proficiency level is. One of the big things is their names. Learning how to say their name is very empowering to our students because their name is part of who they are. There's a national campaign called My Name, My Identity that I welcome you to look into. And we implemented it at the school where I taught before. And all of our students from kindergarten to fifth grade, I think were in our building. Every student, whether they were an English learner or not, participated. And we talked about our names. We talked about where it came from, who named us, and how you pronounce it. And then we made recordings of each student saying their name, which became part of their portfolio. So that when they went to a different grade, their teacher could listen to them saying their name so that they could say it properly and correctly. All right, so I'm going to introduce you to a boy named Moises. This is just a short video clip of a larger clip called Immersion. And if you have a chance later on, I invite you to watch the whole video. It's very enlightening. But I'm going to set the stage a little bit and tell you a bit about Moises. Moises came from a South American country with his family. His family wanted a better life for him. Mom and dad and older brother work so that Moises can go to school and get a better education. And he has he's very good at math and he excels in that area, but he lacks the language. So we're going to watch a little bit about Moises and the classroom, and then I'm going to ask you for some interaction.
Testing all week this week and next week. The tests are going to be hard, but that's all right because we're going to try really hard. Isn't that right, Cameron? Yes, Ms. Peters. Okay, great. Everyone listen up. So we're gonna want to work on we get ours from the answer and the information in the story, okay? Gonna go ahead and factual tests and try this actus test. Oh, test your test. So we're gonna create, you gotta read. First on page 3.
¿Qué dijo? ¿A poco va a empezar el examen? No, es una práctica.
We're gonna take notes from the story and we're gonna turn it into a math problem and we're gonna walk through it together, okay? So the boy ran 3 blocks. So everyone write 3 blocks. How long did it take him to run 3 blocks? Michelle?
6 minutes.
Very good, 6 minutes. All right, so then we take 3 blocks and 6 minutes,
¿Por qué el
right?
niño corre con los bloques? ¿Eh? Sí, ¿por qué el niño corre con los bloques? No,
Okay, so
corre
the
por las
question is
calles.
go on to ask us, how long will it take him to run 20 blocks? What do we do? How many minutes is that per block?
8 minutes.
Try and remember to raise your hand if you want to answer, okay? No, it's not 8 minutes. Michelle?
18 minutes.
Nope, not 18 minutes. Yes, Enrique?
40.
40, yeah, very good. How'd you get 40?
I don't know.
You don't know? Well, 40 is the right answer. How did you get it?
I forgot.
You forgot. Okay. Does anyone know how we get 40? Yes, Moises.
40.
Yep, that's right. Very good. Great. Can you tell us how you got that?
40.
Yep, very good. But can you explain to the class what you did here, how you got that?
40.
All right, you guys. Joe, do you want to lose your recess?
No.
Okay, then. Thank you, Moises.
Can you open, please?
Can you take a walk with me? I don't want you to worry about the test, okay, Moises?
Sí, estoy preocupado sobre el examen. La directora nos dijo que tenemos que hacer.
Just try your best, okay? Do you understand? Not importante.
Sí, sí es importante.
You're right, Moises. It is important.
All right. Every time I watch that, it hurts my heart. So here's my question. Whoops. Hang on. How does Moises feel during this lesson and why? And what could his teacher have done differently to help him understand more? So I'm going to give you a moment or two to think. And it says to write, but I'm going to let you either put it in chat or if you'd like to unmute. Tell us what you think could have happened. So 2 sentences. Moises felt blank because, and his teacher could have helped him, could have done what to help him understand more. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to answer that question. If you want to put a thumbs up in your little window when you're ready, or if you want to unmute, go ahead. Mhm.
Moses felt lost and they could have explained it more. The teacher could have like explained it more or pre pre-taught like some of the vocabulary.
That would have been great, wouldn't it? Yes. Annotating the word problem could have helped. Yes. Could have used his first language translated for him or used visuals because of the vocabulary. He felt overwhelmed and frustrated because he was struggling to keep vocabulary to understand. These are all great answers. What could the teacher have done differently to validate that he had the right answer? Any ideas on how the teacher could have helped him to feel good about himself? Because he did know how to do the problem. And even though there was a language barrier, he was able to share the correct answer. How could she have built upon that and strengthened his self-confidence in that?
She could have allowed him to have shown the class up on the board how to do the problem and made him
Mhm.
successful.
She could have done that, yes. And that would have built him up quite a bit, I think. Any other ideas? Yeah, students sharing using a document reader, that's great. Nonverbal clues with the thumbs up, yeah. She also could have just taken his paper and written it on the board from his paper to say, hey, everyone, look what Moses did. This is his problem, and this is how he worked it out. What do you think about that? So just validating that he had the correct answer and showing everyone that he can contribute to the class was very important. So, okay, back to our presentation. So as we go through the rest of the presentation today, I want you to think about Moises and keep him in mind and how some of the steps that you're about to learn or that you're going to learn as we progress through our 7 Steps books could help us make content more comprehensible for Moises and others like him. So there are some things that we call tips that help to create a language-rich interactive classroom. The T in TIPS stands for total participation, comprehensible input in, and then the students' output being comprehensible as well. So comprehensible input, I'm going to do a little activity with you here. So if you have a piece of blank paper in front of you or near you.
Pocket's been out all day. Have my pocket's been out all day.
Okay. If you have a piece of paper near you, I'm going to give you some directions and I'd like for you to participate with me, okay? So here we go. Our first instruction, put your pangolin at the top right corner of your paper. Put your pangolin at the top right corner of your paper. Okay. Number 2, write the pangolin of your asawa, if you have one, below your pangolin. Now, this should be easy. Shouldn't take you very long. Number 3, in the center of the page, write your inagbansa. So in the very center of your page, write your inagbansa. And number 4, at the bottom of the page, write the number of people in your engkan. Write the number of people in your engkan. Real simple task. All right. Were you able to complete these instructions? Were there any difficulties? And how do you feel right now? Did you understand all of the words that I said or some of the words that I said?
On your way home, everyone.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is this Tagalog, Filipino or Tagalog? Some of the
It's
words
similar, yes, very similar.
Okay, because I can understand Tagalog and sorry, I could understand Tagalog, but I think you pronounced it wrong, so that's kind of what
It's
threw me.
possible, yes.
Okay.
So anyway, the point is when our students are listening, sometimes they pick a lot of the words we're saying, but there may be one or two words that we say that throw them off. There are things that we can do to make content more comprehensible. So if you turn your paper over, we'll try this again. If I say, put your pengalan in the top right corner, whoops, let me go back. Here is my pengalan, and in the top right corner. All right. Write the pengalan of your asawa, if you have one, below your pengalan. So I have two. And I wrote their names under mine. All right. In the center of the page, write your inigbanza. So mine is the United States. And I put a little house there to help give you an idea. And then number 4, at the bottom of the page, write the number of people in your angkan. So this gives you an idea. I have 21 in mine. All right. Did this help to let you understand? Does your paper now look like mine? The only thing I did was add a few clues to make it more comprehensible. And we can do things like this. Did I give away the answers when I did that? No, I just made it more comprehensible. I gave comprehensible input so that they could give comprehensible output. All right. The next principle is to incorporate academic vocabulary, some bricks and some mortar terms. So our bricks are words that we can label. They're content specific. We can look them up in a glossary, and we usually teach them directly. So if we're looking at my example over here, I have a bat and a bird, and I say, even though bats have wings, they are not birds. I can look at the word bat and the word wings and the word birds. And if those are my targets, I can teach the students what those are with examples and pictures. But then we have some things that we call mortar words that are signal words. Sometimes they're hard to define, but they're critical to understand the message we're getting across. We don't really always look them up in a glossary to get the definite meaning. We have to use them and explain them. And that's where this even though comes in. So even though you can't define it directly. So if I say, even though bats have wings, they're not birds, I'm saying something like they're similar, but they're different. Because they both have wings does not make them the same. So I have to do some explaining because even though doesn't have a direct definition for us. So it takes a little more work to make students understand those words. Okay. There's a link here from Coloring Colorado, which is a great site for working with English learners if you're not familiar with it. You can go read a little bit more about brick and mortar words. And then, like I showed at the beginning, annotating our text and even our questions on test is very helpful. We can underline, we can highlight, we can circle things, we can number them in the order we're going to use them, color code them, or put icons next to them to help with understanding. And also we can put notes or thoughts or summaries or paraphrases, agreements, disagreements, definitions, and explanations in the margin around it and draw lines. Anything that helps them to better understand some of those difficult words that might be in the text that we're using. And then I've just provided some examples here. So if this was a history class, distinguishes, even though we've talked all about a lesson about dictators and monarchs, and the students have some understanding, when I give them a question that uses the word distinguishes, they might not have understanding of what that means. So I might have to explain to them that that means it makes it different. What makes it different between the two? Acquire might be another one. So may have to tell them get. It doesn't mean they don't understand what we talked about, but there may be some tricky words in there that they don't understand that keep them from being able to answer the question. Retain, to keep. Sometimes we can use pictures. This one they may have heard us talk about economic, but this symbol would give them a reminder of what it is. To choose, to pick. And advisors, we may be talking about how people help them, but not use that word. So it may take some defining. So there's examples from social studies. We could use the same thing with math, give pictures that talk about reflection, give them graphics. Science, the same thing. Just providing them with some words. And then when we get to reading, this one is something that I bring up because sometimes we give them questions that don't really ask a question. This one says the author uses the first paragraph to primarily, and then gives your choices. That the student might read that and not realize that it's a question. So sometimes just reframing it into a question format is very helpful. I could say, what does the author usually do in the first paragraph? So that might help them to better understand that question. So again, comprehensible input is very important. And then the P and the S are promoting language and literacy and support for struggling readers. Those come in our lesson plans. So promoting literacy, that would be something in our content objective, and promoting language development would be our language development, our language objective. When we're working with our English learners, it's important that we don't water down the curriculum. We use scaffolds so they can access the content. You use what's available to you in your classroom already. Maybe you have some other bilingual students. You have some resources, translators, bilingual dictionaries. Use what you have and communicate regularly with your ESL teacher. It's really important you know your scaffolds and how your students can use them. And then knowing what a scaffold is, it's something that's meant to be temporary. After the students gain ability to use them, we take them away slowly so that they don't rely on them. That's like your translation tools. We don't want the students to be reliant on those forever. So start out with them when they're newcomers. Letting them use them is great, but slowly move away from them and let them struggle a little bit to create understanding, and let them know that that's there for those words they really need to look up when they need them. So they're meant to be things we take away slowly. These are just some examples of different types of scaffolds. We have oral scaffolding, procedural scaffolding, and instructional scaffolding. So those are ideas to use later on. And now we're going to talk a little bit about how we create that language-rich interactive environment and the 7 steps. But before we get into this, I want to take you to our Wakelet, and we're going to look at that real quick. So let me put that link up here. It's in your note taker. So if you look down in your note taker, I have a link to the Wakelet, which is going to be for our book study. And then there are links to book study, or book discussions, and classroom visits. So in the Wakelet, today's is going to be in the first column, our kickoff. It's going to have your note taker and then any resources that we want to share for you for ahead of time that you might view before we start the session. Then we'll put the slides in there before we get started for the event. And then any kind of reading that might be outside of the book that we might want you to have. And again, some resources that might be helpful. So that will be in the book study portion of it. So we have our kickoff. Session 2 is going to be another virtual session where we're going to talk about chapter 2. And then following that will be a classroom visit where we look at what we talked about in the session before and come in and either watch you and trying to use it in your classroom, or if you would like, we can demonstrate that for you. And what will happen is one of our males, at least hopefully 2 or 3, will be coming to visit your school. You'll sign up for a date for your school, and we'll visit as many classrooms as we can at that time. And we'll observe in your classroom or present in your classroom, and then we'll have a debrief afterwards. We'll have either one of our people can step in and watch your class when we debrief, or we can call in a substitute for that day to travel with us as we visit, and they can be with your classroom while we debrief with you. So we'll work that specific out later. That's going to be the whole process through the 7 steps. So we'll do one session for each of the 7 steps. And then the second link, these calendars take you to our calendar. So if you click on those, it will open up the calendar view that you see here. So if I click on this virtual session, you're going to have to go to, let's see, October 3rd and 4th are when we have scheduled our next discussion session for chapter 2. So what we're going to ask is for you to pick one of these dates. If one of these times during these dates don't work for you, you can contact us and we will schedule a different time. These are just right now place fillers for those dates. If you needed us to come at another date, we try to work that out with you as well. These are going to be our book studies. So we want to offer on this calendar 4 opportunities. What you do, click on the date, and we have one for 8:30 to 9:30, and another one at this time, 4:30 to 6:30, or that would be 5:30, sorry, and these adjusted. What you do is click on the sign up and sign up for that session. This one I need to redo. So you're going to sign up for the dates that you want to participate. Okay. If one of these times don't work for you, if your school needs a different time to do the book study, let us know and we'll adjust that. And we'd like to try to keep it on the 3rd and the 4th, but we're open to different times during those days. And I'll have to go in and reset these so that the sign up is active again. It's expired since I created it. So we can go to a different date. So every month there is 2 days set aside for the book study. You can pick one of these 4 times. Again, you sign up, you'll put your name and your email address and save it, and then we'll have the names of people. Even if there's only 1 or 2 people, we'll still have a session. What we're probably going to do is record the first session, and then the recording will be there for you to watch at the second session, and one of us will be there to facilitate and answer questions. So that's how the book study part of it is going to be. And then for the classroom visits, it's very similar. We're giving you more opportunities. So pick a time. And then again, you're going to sign up for your school or depending on how many teachers are in your school, pick one of the times that works best for you. The times that we have on the calendar are times that our male staff is available. So we'd like to try to keep to those dates as much as possible. The times during the day are flexible. So again, we're happy to work with you. If those times and dates don't work at all, let us know and we'll try to work something out with you. We want them on the calendar because we need to keep track that you are participating and who has done the sessions each month. So that's the purpose for using the calendar and the sign up. So if you have a different time or date, let us know. I'll put it on the calendar, then we'll have you sign up. And that's how we're going to keep track of that everyone is participating. Any questions about that? Okay. All right. So that's how we're going to, all of your resources are going to be on the Wakelet like today. The slides are here, the note takers here, and there are some extra resources that I thought you might find interesting there as well. So that's all for you. And then the next, from here on out, there'll be a calendar date that we will ask you to sign up when you are available to participate. All right, so I'm going to go back to the presentation then. And we're going to jump into, now that we've set the stage, we're going to jump into the 7 steps. So one thing I want to say about the 7 steps is that it's really not a program. It's just a set of practices that make your class setting more equitable for our language learners. It's not prescriptive. And again, it's for all students. It benefits all learners, not just our ELs. So our step 1 is teaching students what to say when they don't know what to say. I have some paragraphs on the next slide that I'm going to ask you to read. And when you're finished reading, if you would please put into the chat what stood out to you in what you read. So I'm going to change the slide here. I've got a QR code and a link. Let me copy I think I put the link, in our note taker as well. So you can either scan the QR code or click the link. It's going to take you, hang on a minute. It's going to take you to another page that is a Wakelet page. The thing I like about this is if you're signed in, I don't know if you're familiar with Wakelet, but the reason I wanted to use this is it also has immersive reader built into it. So if you click those little dots, it will open it up on another page that gives you a nice big picture. If you're struggling to read or you want it read to you, you can click the button.
Step 1, independent reading.
And it reads it to you. If you're a language learner, you can have it translated into many different languages. And for some languages, it even reads it to you in that language. So for example, if I pick, I don't remember some of the unusual, maybe Korean. If I change it to Korean, maybe it's not going to do it for this one. All right, I'll pick one I know is going to work. We'll pick Spanish. And for some reason, mine is not switching. Oh, I want the whole document. Yeah, thank you. That's why. I want the whole document. So there we go. So it will translate the whole thing into the other language and not just, I was just doing one word at a time. And then it will read it to you in that language.
Enseña a los estudiantes que
which I think is really great. So anyway, I'd like for you to read this passage and put it back in English. And then we will, after you've read it, please tell me something that struck a chord with you about the passage. So you can enter that into chat. As you finish reading, put what stands out to you about that passage in the chat.
Is that with my first student's needs? I'm not doing it. Right. Right. What? How do I, how do I, you know, I change my name?
All right. So as you put your responses in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and move along so that because we're going to run out of time. So let me go on to the next slide. Please keep adding your comments, and I'm going to include your comments in the they'll be on the Wakelet. We'll include the chat afterwards. We're almost finished. So how this works is students are going to respond or ask for help and when they and then give a response. We don't let them off the hook. A lot of people put a poster in the classroom that has these comments. May I please have some more information? May I have some more time to think? Could you please repeat the question? May I ask a friend? Can I use the internet? Or where do I find more information? So we don't let them off the hook. They can say one of these things, and then we give them more time to find the information. So here's an example of what that poster might look like. But the key point here is we don't let them off with saying, I don't know. We come back to them and we require them to give us a response. And then after we've done this for a while, we can add on what we call wit. We can expand on their response and say, well, why do you think that? Is there another way to say that? Or can you tell me more about that? I've included a link to a Padlet by Carol Salva, who's really great at this, that gives you some more input and ideas for using this and some examples of posters. There's a video here of the steps in action that I'm going to invite you to watch on your own so that you get an idea of what it looks like in a real classroom. So that's part of your homework. And then when we visit your classroom for the first time, we're going to ask that this is something that you try to utilize. So use those questions with your students. Don't allow them to say, I don't know. Instead, require them to give you a response or say, can I ask a friend for help? The teacher has to be very explicit in using this strategy and explaining it to the students. And the research shows that it really does work. Someone asked, what happens if they don't respond? Well, there are different things you could do. You can go sit with the student and say, okay, I'm going to give you a response. Then I'm going to call on you and I want you to tell me that. Or I want you this time to give me the response person to person, but next time I call on you, I'm going to ask you to give that response in the classroom. All right. So that's our chapter 1 topic. And that's the end of today's presentation. So I'm going to exit the screen and hopefully you'll get your book and you will be able to read chapter 1 and chapter 2. Next time we come together, we are going to discuss chapter 2, and you can ask some questions or revisit chapter 1 if you would like to. In your note taker, you will notice that there is a place for questions. So if another question comes up to you between now and next time that's just burning, you'd like to have some information about, post those there. We'll go back and look at that again and make some responses there. It can be anonymous that way. But that's there for you. And we're going to have to end today because we have a second group that's ready to start. So please send any questions you have. And thank you for being here and being a part of this. And hopefully you got something today that you can take with you for now. And we look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to go ahead and end this one so we can start the next one.